Hey everyone, and welcome. My name is Ashley Riddle-Williams, and I'm part of the marketing team here at Circa. I want to welcome all of you and thank you for joining us today. I am super excited to introduce our moderator, Miss Sophie Donelson, who will be in conversation with Justina Blakeney regarding her new book, Island Whimsy. I have a sneaking suspicion that everybody on this webinar already knows who these two lovely ladies are, but on the off chance that you don't, I'll give you a little bit of background. Sophie is a speaker, strategist, and author who celebrates the connection between people and their homes. She is a Boston native, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Longtime New Yorker, and has recently relocated to Montreal with her husband and two sons. And she might just be in the process of decorating her new home with lots of circa lighting. So we are so excited to see that project. It's going to be amazing, and we will share it with all of you too when it's done. That's assuming you're subscribed to our newsletter. If you're not, please do so at circalighting.com. We've got a lot of great events, virtual and in person, and great content that you don't want to miss. And then we have Ms. Justina Blakeney, who is the founder and creative director of the home decor brand Jungalow and the author of the new Bohemian book series. Just this year, Justina became the newest Target home style expert. Her wildly popular collections that feature hand-painted artwork span across home decor, furniture, textiles, travel, kids, accessories. I feel like I'm missing something, stationery. She's got it all covered. And if you want to browse or shop those collections, you can do so at jungalow.com as well as retailers worldwide. Justina believes that good design increases the quality of life and that creativity is the key to having an amazing home. I couldn't agree more. And today, these two will be discussing all things design. Feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen. And we will do our best to respond to all of them at the end of the discussion. And for the first 50 lucky people who registered and are in attendance today, you'll be receiving a copy of Island Whimsy. So look for it in the mail.
Jungalow Decorate Wild.
What's that?
Oh, the name of the book is Decorate Wild. I'm just
sorry, wrong book. Decorate Wild. That might be important.
No worries, just a little parenthesis.
Thank you. Well, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to the people who know what book we're talking about, the right name, to get the conversation rolling. Thank you guys so much for being here. We're excited to see what all you're going to talk about.
Cool. Thank you, Ashley, so much. And the Circa team, Jennifer, Michaela, and Gail Singer back there. Anyway, thanks to all guys. And hi, Justina.
Hi, Sophie.
Fun to see you.
It's so good to see you. It's been too long.
I know, it has been too long. And I joke completely unfunnily. I'm like, I've just basically made myself a job to hang out with my friends and get paid for it. You know, even for like 1 hour a month, it feels like victory, right?
Yes.
So anyway, thanks for coming on. So appreciate it. I love the book. Hold it up again. Let's see it. Amazing. And flip the back of it and let's look at the papers because you have a really cool pattern in some of your intros.
Yeah, so we have two covers. So we have the wild tigress pattern under here. And
hot gloss, like gold foil situation.
Yes, boo. Spare no expense.
Yep. Let's see the back. Let's see the back. Oh yeah, very nice. Okay. So hot tip for you book lovers out there. You can't just be anybody to get two covers, a big book and spot gloss. This is like insider information, but the whole thing. You're like, oh, my book's gonna be matte with end papers that are like full color, and your editor is like, no.
Hot tip, put it in your contract before you sign. That's what I do. I want this, and it's in the contract.
Anyway, but it all counts. So good. And I'm so happy for you. And we were just chatting, and this is your 7th book, because people don't know, but they might get a little bit of it today. But you have had a robust career ahead of Jungalow, which actually included some really cool DIY books, one of which you bring up in sort of the final section of this book, which is, I know because we share a book editor, but about like remixing t-shirts and vintage t-shirts and reuse. And you were super crafty to begin with, long before we knew you as Jungalow famous.
Yeah, I've been a book lover and a lover of DIY and implementing one's creativity in different aspects of life or personal style for the better half of, gosh, my life. So yeah, about 20 years.
I love it. I'm going to pop up our slideshow and keep going, guys.
Fancy.
Yes.
Slideshow.
And play. Here we are. That's us. And summer us, i.e. working, hustling, Zooming, renovating, right?
Yes, that's the vibe right now.
So you at home in LA right now?
I'm at my studio, which is in East LA, Northeast LA, and yeah, it's good to be back because it was about a year and 2 months that no one was here, and now I'm back.
Welcome home. That's awesome. So how big is your team right now? I want to hear a little bit about your firm before launching into showing some more book, and I'll show some pretty pictures while we chat, of course.
Cool. Yeah, my team is myself and eight other women who work with me full time, and a small army of freelancers who help us as well. So it's always a collaborative effort with lots of love and talent coming into all the different projects that you see coming out of the Jungalow.
So let's talk about what the projects are. Like start batting them off, because you are also still doing art. Let me try. How's this?
Okay.
Textiles, right?
Yes, we have a textile collection with Valdez Weavers.
We know your Loloi rugs and pillows.
Yes, I do rugs and pillows with Loloi. You're good, Sophie.
So I did not practice this. Target new collaboration of bedding and decor.
Yes, we have our new Jungalow Opal House collection that just launched. Mm-hmm.
I got to visit the Target in Maine, where I am right now, visiting family, and was like so excited. And maybe two friends were like, "Your friend Justina." I was like, "I know." Okay, that's that. Do your art prints, like, do you sell your art?
I do, yeah. I paint a lot and draw, and our art prints are there's a lot of them that are available as part of the Target collab, which is really exciting to have my art be available at such accessible price points. And we also sell prints of all my art at jungalow.com.
I mean, author, speaker, media entity, Instagram, I'm counting as sort of just like your platform and your person, but those are all businesses. What am I missing?
Nothing, just the book.
Awesome. Way to go.
Thanks.
What do you tell people at like a cocktail party that you are? Other than if they, first of all, if they don't know Howard Dick, other than famous and fabulous, but like, what do you say?
I say that I'm a designer. Yeah, I like the word designer because I feel like that bucket kind of holds all the different things that I do in one way or another at a high level. Then if they dig in, then we can dig in a little bit more. Also, I'm not a traditional interior designer, but my background is actually in graphic design and fashion. And then I started doing interiors. So being kind of a Jill of all trades in the design world, I like the word design because I feel like it's holistically.
Do you take on decorating clients now?
I'm sorry?
Do you take on decorating clients?
I don't. No.
Ever?
No. Very, very rarely. I'm actually doing about to start one project for somebody very special. So you'll be seeing that in the fall, but I do it very, very rarely.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I really admire interior designers and the work that they do, because it's a lot of people work, right? And I'm kind of this artisty introvert type who kind of likes doing my own self-expression thing. So sometimes that client negotiation stuff is not my forte.
I think the way that I've seen it work best for people is getting very fabulous first, and then being like, if you like what you see and you want a piece of this, but you don't get to dictate how, when, and why, I'll give you some of me. And like,
Yes. Like,
and they're like, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're just so lucky to have you, you know.
If it's a carte blanche situation, consider it. Yes.
Great. Awesome. So I loved this book because I've read your others. I've known you and followed you for a long time. And when I read this one and saw sort of how it was pieced together, which includes at the beginning a lot of really personal background and history about your family and your passions, and then sort of loops back at the end to connect what I think is like your ethos, your background, and your aesthetic, and that they really are. I don't know. It to me, I was like, this is the Rosetta Stone of Justina. Like this really kind of like put the pieces together in a way that felt, yeah, logical and cool. Because I think there for me, there's kind of two ways to go at you. Either you found you through like the Jungalow and the aesthetic, and were drawn to the color and the pattern and the freedom at home and the creativity. And then we're like, oh, and she's cool. And this is a really great way of thinking about like decor art of the world. Or like me, I'm like, I get Jungalow and I like it. It's not always for me, or there's rooms in my house or moments in my life that are that. But more importantly, the ethos of creativity, of freedom, of movement, of foraging and collecting, as you put it, is something that, I don't know, I think about it a lot because it's something that can be applied to a lot of different tastes, you know, and a lot of different experiences. And that, I believe, much more than sort of fabulous color is what's made you like catch on like wildfire. That's my take. It's my hot take on like why.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like, for me, that's, I don't know, it's exciting to see. I feel like you peeled back even more in this book to say like, here is what the color means to me. It's not just like fun and photographs well, right? Like there's a purpose to color, or there's a backstory. So I'd love to talk about a little bit of that. But anyway, so I just love it. I think it's so cool. So I mean, here's just dipping our feet in the water of just like images. And a lot of these, you must have taken some of these on your travels or recollected some of them. Like tell me about, because you did have like a crazy Morocco trip a couple of years ago. Do I remember that?
Yeah.
There have been many times.
Yes, there are pictures in the book from my travels. So DeVito photographed like the interiors for the book.
Yeah.
But I really wanted this book to not just be about sort of what I do with the inspiration, but also how I collect inspiration, how I think about it, how I think about the history of the places that I've traveled to, how I incorporate my own life and stories into my home. And so, yeah, there are a lot of images from my travels from when I was a little kid, all the way up until now. So you'll find a lot of images from India. Probably are the most photos are probably from my trip to India, because I went to India while I was working on the book. So while I was there, I was thinking about the book in capturing stuff. But then there are also just images from my travels from whenever I had a big camera with me that could take high resolution photos from Morocco, Mexico.
Another hot tip for those of you working on books: collect your own images,
Yes.
all life, and keep track of them. Right?
Yeah, no, we Dropbox was definitely dipped into many times while creating this book, because I had these ideas and concepts that I wanted to illustrate, and then to be able to kind of go through my archives of the last 20 years of my work and my travels and kind of pull them together to be able to tell this story was really fun. And the juxtapositions of how they work together and tell the story of how I've come up with different concepts or ideas for decor.
Yeah. I mean, here's like some of it was fun, was like you have them in layouts. And then when I was putting this together, even just seeing like these little mental tethering of like moments, whether it's subconscious, right? And there's just like things you love and they manifest in your home, which is here again on the right, or in little moments. And I don't know, it was just fun to think about what you'd experienced and sort of, yeah, how it ended up at home. So much. So the family, first of all, family photos are fabulous. This is your mom and dad, and you really start with an origin story, which is quite touching and also probably pretty intense to share. Did you have hesitation kind of going into this, or it's also, the timing of this is, it's interesting. So tell me about the process of being a little bit more personal, talking about your background, and then, yeah, go ahead and hit it and tell us about your mom and dad and their magical mix, if you will.
Yeah, so it wasn't hard for me to share this. I think, coming from the background of being a blogger and being used to storytelling and sharing bits of my life, um, in general, I knew when I was going to write a Jungalow book that it was going to be a more personal book. The last two books that I did in the New Bohemian series were very much outward facing for me. It was going into other people's homes, talking to them about their aesthetic, pulling things together, pulling ideas together, but it was way more reflective of sort of the creative community that I'm a part of. This book, when I think about Jungalow and when I was thinking about writing a Jungalow book, Jungalow really was born out of who I am and the experiences that I've had and the places I've traveled and the people I've, been influenced by. So I knew it was going to start with this idea of the family that I grew up in, which, obviously you can tell from the photo, I'm mixed. My dad is Black. My mom is of Eastern European Jewish descent. So we grew up with this really vibrant mix of cultures in our home. And I'm bluish. And we grew up in Berkeley, which is, a very kind of hippie, boho, city. It's a college town. It's very multicultural, and there's, it was one of the sort of birthplaces of the civil rights movement, and so there's a lot of history of people kind of owning their colors, if you will. And so I think for me, telling that story and talking about my parents coming together to create this mixed environment for my siblings and I growing up, it just inevitably influenced who I am and my personal aesthetic. My dad has collected Pan-African art ever since I was a kid. So I grew up really surrounded by African art. My mom's actually was an Afro-American studies teacher for many years at the college level. And so, yeah, we grew up just surrounded by art from so many different places. And my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was a travel agent, and she just made sure every single year me and 20 of my closest relatives got on a plane and went somewhere in the world.
That's so crazy.
So I grew up traveling so much, experiencing all these incredible cultures, and from a very, very young age. And so this mixing, whether you think about it in sort of the actual sense of like, oh, she's, multiracial or multicultural, and how I bring things together in my home decor is literally an extension of who I am.
And so what I love, so you could have stopped there and it would have been a great book, but as somebody that really appreciates the art of putting stories together, you didn't at all. Because when I read this, I got both like excited and emotional. So I insisted on having text on screen, even though it's no. But this idea that like banh mi is French baguettes in, yes, a colonized French area, Vietnam, and Vietnamese street food. And that's what that, and you wrote that vindaloo is a Goan variation of a Portuguese marinade. Can you say vinha de la Hos? Anyway.
Great.
Jazz music, right? West African rhythms, European tonal music, and repurposed wind instruments from the Civil War. Like the mix is everywhere, whether we choose to unpack it or know it's there. Also, I think a lot of us in this field, have seen directly the impact of Asian art and architecture on design. So Frank Lloyd Wright being a very obvious example, but another one talking about Santa Fe and the American West and all of the elements of both indigenous cultures and newer arrivals putting this together. And you really now just can't separate it. And it's some of sort of the richest and most, what I would say is memorable, right? These are really memorable cultures. These are places you're talking about that people take pictures of for a reason, and they're not of one pure idea. Never were. right?
Yeah, nothing is, right? And so I think, being so overtly biracial, or, being somebody who people, will see me on the street and be like, oh, what are you? People
Are
don't
you?
know how to categorize me. And so I think for this book, one thing that was really important for me to illustrate, is that we're all mixed and we all influence each other. And the history of encounters, especially in areas, on coasts, right? Because there's just a constant influx and outflux of different people from all different kinds of places around the world. So these port cities are just like very concentrated examples of how our cultures are all so intertwined, and how we learn from each other, and we exchange ideas and foods and concepts of how to create color and how to live and how to design. And right now I think we are in a time where, rightfully so, a lot of people are taking a lot of sort of ownership over their history and their heritage and what's theirs. But sometimes in doing so, I think we neglect to honor the fact that we are, for since the dawn of time, we've been traveling and we've been mixing, and we're all mixed. And one thing, I had a cultural anthropology professor, one thing he said to me in college that just stuck with me for, imprinted on my mind, was this idea that if you fly, let's say, from England to South Africa, you're going to see a drastic change of the way people look and speak, and the way they live. But if you were to walk, or if it were possible to walk, the
Yeah.
changes are so gradual, as you go through Europe and Southern Europe and across the Mediterranean to Morocco and down the Sahara, like that you wouldn't even necessarily notice a difference,
Yeah, that's
because
pretty.
everything is so intertwined. So I just thought that was so powerful.
It's really beautiful. And I think those of us that have, had the privilege or suffered living in the largest cities in the world, see that on a real-time level, making excites me, which are new mixes. And the idea that even if you didn't maybe grow up with a background that you find interesting or culturally relevant, you may be one travel away from like an air that's like, my grandmother got super obsessed with Tunisia for a time.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
we have all this stuff, right? That like you still get to author that experience going forward. And I love that sort of like your adventure kind of like gene, that you can kick that off. I mean, these family photos, you at a souk was one of the best revelations of my 2021. I was like, this was like a premonition, right? Like this, somebody took this picture, and I feel like it's something a psychic would see and be like, you have a future in bartering homewares.
It's in my blood. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so getting into the number one mix. So you posit like 5 ideas of 2, what I could say are disparate cultures kind of being mashed together, and then give a couple ways to use it in your home. And I'm not going to go too far into it, but I'll tell you that the first one is Morocco, Morocco, California, which strikes me as the most you. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I started with that because
I
it
think that's
feels
like for
very
Justina.
me. Yeah, I think, the first time I ever went to Morocco, I was 18 years old or 19, somewhere in there. And I talk about this in the book. It was the first time that I saw my unique blend of cultures reflected back at me, because the folks there are so mixed, and there's a lot of Black Jews, right? And so I was like, oh my God, there are so many Black Jews here. And I
Like,
was just
I was made in California, but you were all made here. Awesome.
Yeah, and then just being a California girl, the laid back lifestyle that we have here, the amount of natural biomes that appear here, desert, ocean, mountains, like everything, all the incredible flora and fauna that we have here. It is the Morocco mix is such an expression of who I feel like I am. And, not to mention just Moroccan handcraft and art and design is so breathtaking and incredible that it's just been such a passion of mine ever since I was first able to visit. And yeah, Cali's in my heart. I'm a Cali girl.
we'll breeze by this one, but I love it, which was New Mexico, Copenhagen. And there's so many of these wonderful kind of like moments and surprising kind of hilarious, hilarious moments. We're going to do a couple polls. I have a poll. I think I missed number 1, and now I need to see, I know my screen just changed a little bit, but I have to see your poll answers. So the number 1 poll I wanted to know is, do you consider yourself an old school fan of Justina's or newish to the club? So, because you could consider yourself old and be an Instagram follower for like 6 months and feel very ahead of it, or you could take pride in knowing her quote unquote when. Which I don't quite, but they have to be out there. So where'd we net? Oh my God, the polls are still coming in. It's so exciting. We're at the new-ish, but not by tons. 35% of the crowd says they are an OG Justina lover. I love that. Cute. It's fun. All right, poll closed. Let's do the second poll right away because I'm already there. My poor host over there. Second poll is, does your own culture or ethnicity or those you visited while you traveled, so either your own or an adopted culture, have a big or little impact on your home's interiors? Justina, don't answer, we know.
I'm answering. It's kind of fun. I'm like, I didn't know you could do these polls on here. This is cool.
Yeah. I love a poll. Next one, I'm going to do a million polls. Well, oh my gosh, and it's changing. This is really exciting. But we're around 70% of the audience that says it has a big impact. I will mention talk about kind of adopted history, but real history. My father grew up overseas because his dad was served in the government. And so we're in the Rafiki room. Rafiki means friend in Swahili, which was a language my father spoke when he was still alive. And so in sort of his honor, but also a place to put all the stuff, because there's a lot, there's like a lot of stuff. I came up with this like room as sort of like a tribute and a hangout, and also have been told that like Nairobi in the 70s was like cooler than cool, that like the clubs and the fashion, the people was, yeah. And I just wanted a little bit of that for myself. So anyway, so we're hosting today in the Rafiki room. Anywho, back to the program, friends. Okay. Your second big idea that we're going through today of the 3 is foraging for color. And you use the word foraging throughout the book, and it's really great. Will you tell me why that was the right word and sort of what that means to you?
So when I was thinking about the name of the book, which is, Decorate Wild, I really wanted this theme of wild, which I think can be interpreted in so many different ways. Whether it's about nature, whether it's about sort of embracing who you are, your inner wild and bringing that out, or whether it's this wild mix that we keep talking about where it's like literally decorating wild. And so sort of riffing on that, I did a lot of word exercises where I was thinking about the word wild and thinking about words that connect back to that concept. And foraged was something that I landed on because a lot of the art that I do and a lot of my design work comes from things that I pick up when I'm around. And it could be a flower or a rock or a twig or a branch. And, I scan leaves to get colors and I do all that kind of stuff. And really what I'm doing is foraging. And sometimes I'm just foraging for inspiration in the sense that, I'm just walking slowly, giving myself moments to take everything in, as opposed to just kind of passing through my life, right? So I think you can forage for inspiration literally anywhere, and you'll be so surprised with what you discover.
And I think also, you give really good advice on sort of helping people, I don't want to say decide what your colors are, because I think colors are always changing and they're quite easy to be flexible, but thinking about what makes you feel a certain way, what gives you energy, or likewise from room to room, what is a room that you might want to be more calm in? And that's okay to go with a scheme there that's really different than how you want to feel in a family room or a gathering room, or your bedroom. And I feel like there's a lot of parts in the book that are really like quite instructive. How did you come up sort of with that guidance? I think, for you, it's probably often very intuitive. How did you kind of unpack it for the rest of us?
Well, but both of my parents are developmental psychologists. And so I tend to approach things with feeling. how does X or Y make me feel, was just something that I was asked a million times a day, every single day, ad nauseum, right? How does this make you feel? How does that make you feel? So I
Oh,
think my design approach is always that also. How does this make you feel? How does this make you feel? And I think oftentimes the way lots of people approach design is what does this look like? You know, how does this look together? How does this look, as opposed to how does it make you feel? How does it feel when you're in here? Do you feel energized? Do you feel tired? Do you feel relaxed? And so I think just approaching design from a little bit of that psychological standpoint that I was just raised with by nature of, you know, my parents' profession, makes me think about the why a lot. Oh, this makes me feel this way. Why? Why does it make me feel that way? And because I'm constantly asking myself that why question, it makes it a little bit easier then for me to unpack for others, because I've spent a long time thinking about it for myself.
I think I've looked at this photo on the left 1,000 times and I've never noticed that the grout is golden hued.
It's
Yellow?
terracotta,
It's terracotta.
but it changes so much with the light also because the tile is so vibrant. But yeah, it's kind of a terracotta-y color.
So it's just a tinted grout.
It's a tinted grout. Correct.
People don't do that enough. I mean,
Agreed.
hot tip. I also, this is one of my, like, I just love that this image on the right, which is something a lot of Pinterest users could get behind, is actually in this room. Which I feel is like, you like turn the camera, you're like, oh, how serene and peaceful. And then you're like,
boom.
gotcha.
Yes.
Because I knew this room and I was like, oh, that's really like subdued, pretty design by Justina. And I was like, oh, it's amazing. And then even further in the room are these incredible, which you have through your, well, newish, soon to be old home, these beautiful like plastered cutouts in the wall, which are these like viewing or display boxes, right?
Yeah, we put those everywhere in our home.
Sorry, I'm gonna make you all dizzy and go back, because even this type thing.
Yeah. So this house is really quite small. It's just over, in fact, you featured it in the House Beautiful Small Spaces
right?
issue. And we did all those cutouts to create extra storage space, because it really has no storage space. And then, you know, there's an archway. It's a Spanish style home. There's an archway in the entryway to the home. So we kind of wanted to echo that throughout, creating these little nichos.
It's great. I love it. Moving on to pattern. I laughed out loud, took a screenshot of the galley, texted your book editor, Shauna Mullen, who works at Abrams, who's amazing, with this quote, which, not this one on the screen, but the next one. Let's see if it's there. Okay, the quote was, have you ever walked into a garden, forest, or jungle and thought, wow, it's so busy in here? Answer, yeah, me neither. And I was like, thank you, Justina. Like, because people are like, it's just too much like pattern and color. Just like, I just want something serene. I'm like, okay, first of all, the ocean is filled with pattern. Stones are filled with pattern. Trees are really busy. Trees are super busy with bark, and leaves, and branches. It's like, oh my God, slow down. I was like,
seed pods, flowers, yes.
It's just like color and pattern is like overwhelming and I can't deal with it in my life and I just want to live in a white box. I'm like, what in the world? Like we have to undo that so hard, you know? And I'm also on board with having a white on white home that has plaster, stone, tile, texture, wallpaper, nubbly fabric, silky fabric, like go all out on ivory, but like, you know, have some robust.
Mix it up. Yeah.
I died laughing. And then I saw this picture of you, of which maybe I'll pull it up. I have an amazing like version of myself with 19 patterns in a room, which in the 70s apparently was like kind of normal. And people are all like, oh, we were so naive and weird back then. I'm like, no, I think that was kind of nice.
Kind of a fun, wild decade.
Anyway, so you obviously grew up sort of immersed in this, no?
Yes, this photo is hard to see, but was hard to find photos from this home. But this was my grandparents' home in LA. And the whole thing was covered in botanical wallpaper, a matching botanical motif on the sofas, the window coverings, lampshades, everything had the same botanical motif on it. And they moved from that house probably when I was about 5 or 6, but it just left such an impression on me. And it was, and I've been obsessed with botanical motifs ever since then, because I just found myself getting lost in it and kind of being able to create my own world there, and
All right, wait for it to resolve. Hang on a second.
oh my gosh, little Sophie.
19 patterns. Mary Mecco on wallpaper.
Yes.
So like,
yeah.
well, I don't miss it. And so anyway, but you tie really nicely together this idea that like nature is pattern, nature is color, nature makes us feel really good. And people are both trying to bring nature in, and they're trying to create living rooms outdoor. And that is a natural, no pun intended, inclination, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I love that. Okay, here's a quick reminder to people before we do our next poll, to toss some questions in there, because we're gonna do a poll, finish up with okay, here's my nature photo. See, look at how serene and pattern filled it is. Toss some questions in the Q&A. And my question for our next and final poll is, are you wild with color or mild with color? And now that I've told you that it's okay to be mild, and I mean it, it is okay to do ocean and serene colors if that's what makes you feel good, but I'm just curious. Don't you feel like do you get to watch this? I'm watching this in real time.
Oh.
50, like I'm seeing the percentages change.
Oh no, I'm not privy.
Okay. Wild is netting out at like 53, 55%. Oh, and the tally is in. The sharing the poll results. The poll results.
Hey, wild
54% for wild, and 46 for mild. Excellent. I love it. Justina, what would you consider yourself?
Wild, baby, wild.
Wild is right. Okay, 1 second. Let me bump out of here. Stop sharing. Oh God. Oh, help. Oh my gosh, there's one of your cutouts, which I love.
Yay.
So sweet. Okay, I'm gonna stop my share for a minute. I'm gonna go back and wait for some questions. I am gonna tell 1 or 2 exciting talking points. I was in New York yesterday for my first time in a long time, and I was visiting pandemic-born babies, and did not have a chance to stop by, which I wanted to. Circa's brand new lighting showroom there, which is at 200 Lex, that has a lighting lab in it, which is a whole thing. It's a concept in all the new Circa showrooms, which is basically your ability to try things out, work with a sales rep, and find like everything you need. And so I'm going there next time I'm in New York, but they also just opened one in Southampton. And there's been a bunch of other openings this year and coming down the line. So most of you on this call are on the email list, but if you're not, get on the Circa email, and then Circa Lighting is your @ for Instagram. Also, Justina Blakeney and Jungalow and Justina Blakeney Home are your Instagrams. Any other ones?
The Jungalow. Yeah. That's good. Those 3 are our top 3.
Okay, perfect. And Sophie Dow, DOW for me. And so anyway, yes, to reiterate, lighting designers standing by to help you develop perfect lighting solution, and also architectural lighting labs, which is really cool, which include like cove lighting and down lighting and surely up lighting, certainly all of the kinds of lighting. So that's exciting Circa news. And now we're going to jump into some questions, and they're already queuing up in the Q&A. This is so fun. Okay. This is a great question. How can one begin designing a room when they may not have the resources to purchase all of the items that they want at once?
Just do it slow. I'm like, that's an easy one. Just do it slow.
I do that.
Yeah, I don't think of design as something that you do and then you finish and then you live in the space. I like to think of spaces as growing and evolving with you, with your family, as your tastes, your needs, your inclinations change. So I like to think of design like painting with oils on a wet canvas. You can keep adding bits of color, take little things away, smooth things out. And I think not only do I think it's perfectly okay to do it slowly and over time, I actually think it's preferable. I think when you do a big design project all at once, then you're like, okay, boom, my place is done. It tends to not be as functional or as personal as when you do take time to create a space.
Also, they can give you more flexibility. So if you have an idea in your mind, you're like, I am all in on Hollywood Regency, or like, I am all in capital J Jungalow and I want it to be exactly this way. And you do it. That strikes me as what happens at like 2 years later. You're like, this doesn't really reflect me anymore. Whereas if over 6 months and 6 months and 6 months, it evolves slowly, things that don't suit you fall away, and things that get closer to who you are at that moment come in, I find. Yeah, less of the like, we have to redo the place because it's all wrong now, In Justina's strong spaces, the question is, how do you set your individual space to let your mind clear and wander?
I think for me, I love material culture. So I love having books, art, textiles, plants. I love having all these things around me because they help my mind wander, and they sort of give me moments of nostalgia or bring me back to certain people or certain moments, the same way music or perfume can. And so for me, I don't need a space that's clear to have a clear mind. That's me though. And one of the things that I talk a lot about in the book is that we are all so different. We all need different things in order to feel different ways. And so while I understand that for me, having a collected space that where I'm surrounded by these memories and these things that I love, or these things that remind me of people and places that I love, to me, that brings me joy, that brings me clarity, that brings me ideas. That might not be the same for you. And that's great. That's great that you're in tune with that. And so if what you need is a place without all this material culture around you, without objet d'art, without, books or whatever you need, that's great that you know that. And then you can, start to inject your space with what it is that you feel does connect you to that place where you're trying to be in your mind, whether it's clarity or whether it's new ideas or a sense of expansiveness. So I think it's really important that you know that about yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's the same thing with home, right? I mean, there's people that come into my home and are very stressed because there's a lot, maybe they're like comfy in the living room and they're like, this is really homey, but I could never live like this. And I'm like, it's good that. And like, I can, and I, in a lesser space wouldn't maybe feel as much myself or as comfortable. But also that, for those of us that have several rooms in a house, and are we lucky to express different moods for different points. So that can also be something to flex in your own home or even in a workspace. There could be a time that you might say, let me clear the table and make a kind of a fresh start, and times where you're like, I need to be kind of stimulated. And that can also change over time too, right? This is fun and hard. I love a colorful boho style, and my husband likes super modern, minimal design. No, I did not write this question. How would you suggest designing a home like ours in a way that balances both tastes?
So in my last book, The New Bohemian's Handbook, I have a quiz that you can take that connects you to different environments that light you up. And so, you can score ocean, you can score mountains, you can score grasslands, et cetera, desert. And then it gives you sort of ideas of where to start as far as colors or textures, patterns, etc. So one thing that I like to do is find those connection points. My husband's actually way more minimal, modern, functional than I am. And so we're oftentimes doing these types of negotiations. And my 9-year-old Ida has a lot of opinions too, by the way. So there are a lot of places where we come together. And so I think finding those connection points are the first step. Both my husband and I love the color green. We also both love the color blue. We also both love and gravitate towards natural materials. So finding these connection points is a great like jumping off place to say, okay, I know your style is more minimal, my style is more boho, but what are the places that we do have things in common? And oftentimes that's a great place to start.
It's a great one. Justina, I've been obsessed with your work ever since I listened to you on Brene Brown's podcast. I mean, also like major. My question is, would you ever consider teaching design?
Ooh, that's a fun question.
You know, haven't you? Aren't we? Right?
Right. Yeah. Yes, I guess is the easy answer to that. I think I love teaching and have done quite a bit of that type of thing in workshops or things like that over the years. And I often think, oh, maybe when I'm in my 60s, God willing, that's something that I might want to do is go teach somewhere. So
like that, like funny idea that you're gonna like slow down. Ha ha ha. Says every like 70-year-old woman watching this being like, no, that never actually. I find you actually speed up after 60. I'm like, oh, good, great. Kill me now. Anyway, okay, great question. What's your favorite room to design?
Gosh, I think right now I'm really enjoying designing kitchens. I just love, I'm such a tile person, so kitchens and bathrooms are really, really fun for me. I feel like there are so many moments where you can do fun and interesting and oddball things. And maybe it's also because we just got a new home, so I'm able to kind of create this new kitchen and just having so much fun with it. I honestly love designing all different rooms, but because I don't think I've had as many opportunities to do kitchens and bathrooms, it's just a fun challenge.
I was almost sure you'd say bath or then kitchen. But yeah, also, yeah, just fun materials, right? Totally different.
Yeah.
And you're also working on your pool, which I know is difficult, but I saw some of the Instagrams of you putting the tile together and like, it just looks so fun.
It's so fun. And I love this is like the first big like outdoor project that I've done, in a larger space with a pool and stuff like that. And I'm having, a blast doing it, besides the fact that there's a lot of challenges just due to material supply and all that I think every home decor business is dealing with right now. But yeah, it's a total blast.
How far away is your new place from your current home?
It's about a 15-20 minute drive.
Okay. Not bad. Oh my gosh, it's my cousin Megan. Hey, Megan. How can I decrease my fear of designing with wallpaper?
Use peel and stick. Toe dip.
Best answer ever. There you go. I mean, they're so good these days, huh?
They're so good. They're so good.
Have you done one?
Oh yeah, I use peel and stick wallpaper all the time. We have peel and stick wallpaper at Jungalow.
You have Jungalow peel and stick.
Yes, boo. We got you renters. We got you toe dippers.
Where do we purchase it? On your site?
At jungalow.com. Got lots of peel and stick wallpapers available.
Done and done. What's your number one favorite color right now, and how would you use it?
I honestly think terracotta is just still life to me. That's like my current neutral color. So I just love the way it looks with warmer tones like earthy reds. I love the way it looks with greens and blues. So to me, it's sort of oftentimes I'm jumping off from a kind of a warm, chalky terracotta color.
Yeah, I love that. As a designer who uses lots of color, what's your main strategy for lighting a space?
Harnessing natural light is always the very first thing I do. So for example, in our new home, we're adding a lot of skylights because it is kind of dark in some of the spaces. And then when it comes to thinking about lighting, I always think about, I think about it from the ground up. So first floor, then wall, then ceiling, and making sure to create lighting moments that can adapt with how you interact with the space throughout the day. So so thinking about that, I think, and I think one other thing that for me is really important, especially when you are into colorful spaces, is seeing how the for example, paint looks at night with with, you know, whatever lighting you're
Artificial
using.
light,
So
black
making
light,
sure to
yeah.
be, yeah, testing that kind of thing, because color changes so much with different lighting. We're always doing a lot of testing at different times of day. And especially now, again, with this new house, we're redoing all the electric in the house and putting all new lighting in. And so we're deciding, oh, where on the wall is this sconce going to go? Where on the ceiling is this pendant going to go? And so testing those things at night is really important.
Yeah, and thinking about where you want like a wall washed with light, right? With like, you know, more even light versus puddles of light, which can be quite
Yes.
romantic and move your
Yes.
eye around. Yeah, that's fun to think about as part of the architecture at the beginning, right? You have a chance to do that with this one.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. This is cool. I recently bought a new house. It's much bigger than my old apartment. Same. Do you have any advice for decorating bigger spaces and connecting the design through like multiple rooms? Like, how do you think about, I know, I think it's one of those things that your professional interior designers, that's for the earlier person that asked about like, what if I'm not buying it all at once, right? Designers have that kind of power to oversee everything and to say, here's how to work together when we're in it and doing it. Yeah.
Mhm. So one thing that I think can help is some, you know, uniformity of, for example, floors. If that's possible, to create sort of to having, it doesn't have to be floors, but things that do tie back to other spaces in the house. I think that's helpful to create kind of a uniform feeling. I also find that in designing a larger space now, just thinking about scale is so important. So you just want to match the scale of the space when you're thinking about the furniture, when you're thinking about the art on the walls. You know, if you're dealing with a much bigger space, you don't want to bring in the same tiny furniture that you might have had in your last space. It's going to feel uh, like a mismatch. So trying to match the scale in each room, I think is really key. And then just allowing yourself to experiment and try different things out, move furniture around, move art around onto different walls, see how different things make you feel, try things out for a weekend. I mean, that's one of my favorite things to do, is just take what I already have and just put it in and try it out in different places. Maybe that looked good in your living room in your last place, but your new living room was too big. So try it in your bedroom. You know, you can switch things up, and don't be afraid to, in the book, I talk about using anything as material. So you don't have to use something for its originated function or how you used to use it for. You can give it a new life just by thinking about it in a new way or giving it new context.
Yeah. Or clustering it, right? Like if the furniture feels small, then like do a full seating area here and then a little sitting area in the living room, and that it won't feel
Yes.
anymore if it's sort of, yeah, clustered
Yeah.
together.
Creating zones. Yeah.
Cool. Let me go to top again. Do you think you'll ever do a jewelry line in the future?
Ooh, that's a fun idea. I
Sarika, are you
love
asking? Do you know people? I know.
I absolutely love the idea of doing jewelry. I also love fashion and apparel, and you know, I wouldn't take anything off the table. I think as an artist or a designer, it's fun to kind of put those creative juices into all different kinds of media.
We're gonna do 5 more quick ones and then let people go just before the hour. Real quick, what's your day-to-day routine like?
Honestly, it's so different every day, especially post COVID. It's even way more different because sometimes I work from home, sometimes I come in here to the studio. It oftentimes depends on what my husband and daughter are doing throughout the day. But I usually start the day with an outdoor shower, and soon to be swimming, which I'm really excited about once our pool is done. And doing some kind of something to get my body moving.
Or your
So
upside down thing?
my upside down thing. I did it this morning.
Wow.
So that's kind of my morning. And then I actually just recently started implementing design blocks in my calendar, which was something that has actually been life changing for me, because I used to sort of squeeze my design work in just whenever I didn't have a meeting or an appearance or whatever else it is that I'm doing throughout the day. And one thing that we implemented about 2 or 3 months ago is scheduling in sort of my creative design time, so that like after this, for example, I have a 4-hour design block where I
Nice.
can just be creative. So it is, my schedule does change a lot throughout the day. But I tend to finish up work right around 5 o'clock and then spend the evenings with my family and, hopefully get out somewhere into nature for at least a few minutes every day as well.
I love that. How can I keep a space colorful and full of special pieces, big and small, without cluttering? Well, what if we don't believe in clutter?
I actually do believe in clutter.
What is clutter? Well, that's a
I
good question.
do
What is
think,
clutter?
okay.
I'm rephrasing your question. What is clutter to you, Justina? Like, well, where do you draw the line, though? Because it's a good question. Where do you draw the
No,
line?
it is. And I think for me, it has to do with the way you display or organize items, and it has to do with just making sure that things that are on display are things that you love to look at. So I think if that's the case, if it's sort of displayed in a way that's pleasing, and if everything that's there is interesting to look at, it's not clutter. It's collected, it's layered. Once I mean, I think this happens in all of our homes. Maybe we have a perfectly styled bookshelf and it's beautiful, and you've got a little statue and you've got your plant and you've got your stack of books and you've got everything just so. But then over time, things collect there. Your cup all of a sudden's got pens in it, people start dropping different things there. And then all of a sudden you've got something that doesn't look collected anymore. It looks cluttered because it's not as intentional. So I think oftentimes it has to do with the intentionality of it and the upkeep of editing, taking things out that maybe no longer speak to you. I give stuff away all the time. Like if somebody comes and is like, oh my God, I love this piece. I'm like, girl, it's yours. Because I love finding these treasures.
Yeah.
And I love having them around for a while. And then I love passing them on to somebody else who it can light up for a little while, and then just keep that cycle going.
Love that. What color is your new kitchen? And this woman is asking, what are some fun colors for apartment kitchens? We'll take this as like cabinetry or sort of like finishes.
Yes. My new kitchen's pretty colorful. It has actually, this painting back here of mine has a lot of the colors in it that that the new kitchen's going to be. So it's got that earthy red. It's got that kind of light pinky kind of my color, pinky brown, and that sage color is in it too, and even these like pops of citron. So that's going to be the new kitchen colors, which I'm really excited about. And what was part B of that question?
What were fun colors for apartment
Oh,
kitchen?
fun colors for any color that lights you up. Go color foraging. We have the exercise in the book. It'll help you hone in on the colors that speak to you and that will help you feel energized or help you feel the way that you want to feel in your new kitchen.
There's some love for your target line. There's some love for you. Any advice they're asking to give to new and aspiring designers? That blocks of time was a really good one. Like saving the time to, if you're working in another job, for example, like dedicating creative time.
Yes, blocked out creative time is huge. I think knowing who you are as a designer is going to just take you so far. I think one of the things I see time and time again is people kind of trying to emulate what other designers are doing. And I think that's a really great way to learn. But once you've kind of gotten to that place where you've kind of learned the basics, I do think it's important to figure out who you are as a designer and bring your own self into the work. And that was one of the points of the exercise that I have in the book, where I'm doing these cultural mashups, because all the different cultural mashups that we have in the book, Morale Cali, New Mexico, Copenhagen, all these different places are places I've been and places that have impacted me. And the photos in the book are photos that I've taken of those places. And it's about that personal relationship to space and digging in and figuring out who you are. And I think that's a huge part of why I've been able to be successful with my brand and my books and all that is because I know who I am as a designer. And I also know that my design sensibility might not be for everybody, but that's okay. And that knowing who I am, I sort of attract my people. And I think that's just such an important part of being on your own journey as a designer or as an artist, is just using your voice and finding that voice and then bringing it out.
So good. Thank you for today. Thank you so much. Love chatting with you. I'm so happy for you in this book. It feels, I don't know, really personal and really beautiful. And I hope people love it as much as you and I both do.
Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. And thanks
to the Circa team too for putting this on, and to our attendees. Thanks you guys for visiting so much. We do one of these usually every month. So make sure you're on that Circa list and Circa Lighting Instagram, and have a fun day, everybody.
Mwah.
Designing, Justina. Bye.
Bye.